Okay, and this brief lecture is on our podcast assignment and the team website assignment, and I've just titled it, What Do I Do Now? So first thing your team will do is to create its website. And what I want you to do is create yours on Wix, which is www.wix.com. It's a great website creator. It's free, it's drop and drag. You don't need to know programming or anything like that. Before you get started, what I'd like you to do is watch a couple of what I just call instructional videos that I've created on how to do these things. So what I'd like you to do is watch the first one, which is how to create a website in Wix. And I've put these up on Blackboard. And then what I also want you to do is look at my video on how to create a subpage within your team website. And then what I will do is I also want you to watch a video on how to insert the podcast that you'll be creating into your subpage. So what I've got here is just this little graphic, which hopefully isn't too confusing. So what I want you to imagine is that this is your team website once you create it. Then each individual team member will have their own subpages. So for example, this is individual number 1. What you will have on your subpage are 3 podcasts. So that's part of the assignment, is to create 3 podcasts. Then person number 2 will have their own subpage and then also put their podcasts, their playable podcasts there on the website, and so on. So I'm not quite sure how many people will be on each team. It'll probably be about 5 or 6. And then this is just a graphic of what I just talked about. So imagine this is your section of the team website. You'll have your podcast 1, 2, and 3 on there. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the instructions. So these instructions are also on the syllabus. So what you see here is also on that document. But I want to go through it just so I can sort of chat with you about this. So I want you to think of the podcast as an essay. That's really the first thing you need to do with this. I know all of you are saying, I haven't made a podcast before, but that's okay. You have written papers before. So think about this as an essay. So it's a short essay, which needs to be fully cited, and you have to have a bibliography attached to that. And then what you simply do is that you take your research essay and you record yourself reading it. That's what the podcast is going to be. I'll give you some examples of this, and I'll show you how I want the essay to look like. One thing to remember, this is a history class, and this is probably the same for all of your other classes too. You have to cite properly. So you need to give acknowledgement anytime you take someone else's ideas or you quote someone, and that's every single time. I will have something called a self-diagnostic, which I'll give you, and you can do a series of checkoffs on what you should be doing in this particular essay. And it'll say, for example, my essay is about 750 words, and I know that I will be marked down if it's shorter. So you'll just check mark off that, and then that will help me to grade these. Okay, so in terms of what this essay/podcast will be, it's about 750 words. It's about 2.5 pages. I don't want it really too much less than that, and I don't want it too much more. And I do want to just let you know, word count is not included in the footnotes and bibliography or your name or any other material that's not the actual essay itself. So the essay that you will read for your podcast, it must have 3 secondary sources. And so I talked about what a secondary source was in a previous video. This is anything written by scholars today. So 3 sources. Now 2 of these must be either books or journal articles. The third one, you may use a website, and I've given you the website here that you can use. And this is the only website that you will be able to use. If you use another one, I'm going to mark you down. Now, I will talk about primary sources here in just a bit, but for secondary sources, it must be journals, books, and maybe an article from this one website. You have to make use of a primary source, and if you remember, primary source is anything written during the Roman Republic or anything built. So written text or Roman archaeology. Now you can and should use the web to find primary sources. Now I'm going to give you a list, but what you can do is type in, say, Livy's History of Rome, Aeneas, which is a character, and then some primary text should come up, and you can certainly use that, but you just have to make sure that you cite it properly, and we can go over that more in detail once these assignments start becoming due. When you have finished, so you've got your written essay, you're going to record it, and I will make a video on a few tools that you can use to record your podcasts in. When you're finished recording, listen to it. Make sure that it can be heard. Make sure there's no noise in the background, no mowing lawn, no leaf blower, no dogs, that sort of thing. You want this to be as professional as possible. Then what I want you to do is to put up your podcast on your team website section, your own section, on the day it's due. I will talk about the different audio players that Wix has. They're actually really easy. They have a set audio player that's already in. You just attach your file to it, and that will be a file extension MP3 for audio. It's very easy to do. It looks very professional when it's done. What you also must do is attach your essay, so your transcript, below your podcast. So you'll have your podcast player that will play your podcast. Below that, I want you to attach your transcript. And then the last thing that you must do is upload your transcript into the assignment upload folder. So the reason for that is everything you write in this class will go through something called SafeAssign, which is a plagiarism detection software. So you have to do all three. Put up your podcast, put your transcript, so your essay below the podcast, and then upload your podcast transcript into the assignment upload folder on Blackboard. And then this is the last slide here. Again, I've talked about this before, but how to cite. So I'd like you to use in-text citation, which again is the last name of the author, the year, and then the specific page number that you're citing. So a few years ago, I made a couple of podcasts on, like, how, I think I titled it, this series, How to Make and Do Something, or something like that. But I made one on how the ancient Egyptians make beer. I know it's unrelated to the Roman Republic, but this is just an example. So what I wrote here was a summary of what Samuel has to say on page 448. So you can stop the video and read through this. You can see how I wrote it and then how I cited it. Now, you know it's a summary because there's no quotation marks. If I had taken something directly from that site, I would have put the quotation marks around it and still cited it just the way I did. And then in your bibliography at the end, this is how it should look like. Last name, first name, period, the title of the article. And I know this is an article because of the way it's set up in Chicago style. So the journal is Science, and it's in italics, the volume, the number, the date, and then the page range of the entire article. So this is how you'll be citing your 3 secondary sources and how you will cite your primary text.